I would view that as we can raise U.S. production, we would squeeze down the bad actors, especially Iran. I think I'm right, maybe not in the exact numbers, but in order of magnitude. I believe Iran was down to 100,000 barrels of oil exports when President Trump left office. I believe that they are now exporting in excess or approximately 1.7 million. So through sanctions policy, I believe that we can, again, as I like to say, make Iran poor again. Not the Iranian people, the Iranian government. And then at the same time, they have our domestic producers push that up with the highest energy standards in the world. On CBDCs, I see no reason for the U.S. to have a central bank digital currency. And once President Trump takes office, and if I'm confirmed, if he wants to eliminate the debt limit, I will work with him and you on that.
Great, because I agree with President-elect Trump that the debt limit should be repealed.
And I recently read data that in terms of affordable housing, the opportunity zones have created more affordable housing within the zones than any other federal government program since opportunity zones were created. So I think that it's a fantastic way to address the housing crisis. I think the inner city redevelopment. I think we could think about opportunity zones more in rural areas. Yes. So I look forward to expanding and continuing the discussion.
It has to do with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that we passed in 2017. If that were to expire, we're talking about a massive tax hike of over $4 trillion. What would that kind of a tax hike mean for small businesses, for job creators, as well as our global competitiveness if all of a sudden we put the heavy wet blanket of a $4 trillion tax increase on our nation?
Senator, I think it would be devastating. That is, especially for small businesses. One of the things that, as someone who came from a very small town, lived in New York, with a very big town, and came back to a small town, I believe Wall Street has done great the past few years, and that Main Street has suffered. I think it's Main Street's time. Wall Street can continue to do well, maybe not as well, and it's time to have a Main Street small business-led recovery led by small banks, regional banks, as I call it, reprivatizing the economy. And as I said earlier, we've seen since November 15th, since President Trump's election, we have seen the biggest jump in the history of the Small Business Confidence Index. Okay. I agree with you that opening markets is good, but the free trade must be also balanced against fair trade. And clearly what has happened is the trade has not been fair. That has fallen on the American workers, and we cannot allow, as I think I mentioned to you, China is the most unbalanced economy in the history of the world. They are in a severe recession/depression. They may have -4% disinflation, and they are attempting to export their way out of that as opposed to doing the much-needed internal rebalance.